It's that time of the week again. Yes, it's on the run time, but not really on the run because look where I am, right here in my office in Macau, back to home base. All the gaming news of the week coming up next.
Run.
Well, hi everybody. Yes, here we are in my office in Macau, and let's get into the news of the week. As I said before, we start in Macau like we normally do. Morgan Stanley came out this week and predicted the Q2 EBITDA to be $1.6 billion, a great number, on a predicted revenue of $4.7 billion. So that's just a touch under triple that amount. So that implies the EBITDA margin is a little over 33%, which is an absolutely fantastic number. 46% up on Q1. And I guess this high EBITDA margin also reflects more mass and less VIP gaming. And Morgan Stanley is saying that mass revenue and mass EBITDA are both now within touching distance of 2019 levels, which is fantastic. And they're even bullish on Q3 and Q4. They say that these concerts are helping, these MICE events are helping, and they're predicting Q3 and Q4 respectively to be 115% and 125% of 2019 level. No, I tell a lie. Sorry, that's wrong. 2024 and 2025 to be 115% and 125% of 2019 levels. Geez, wouldn't it be great if they were that in Q3 and Q4 this year? They won't be that. But I think Morgan Stanley, they're very, very bullish, and they may well be right, but they do tend to, in my view, ignore potential black swan events. And they tend to presume that China will not crack down on the industry, which at the moment they're not. So that's great. So let's see how things transpire. I think Morgan Stanley numbers are probably correct if we get left alone by the mainland and the mainland is happy with us just doing what we are doing. More on that. The Macau visitation hit over 100,000 visitors per day, 2 days in a row at the Dragon Boat Festival. So this was Thursday and Friday last week. In fact, the PSP, the local Macau police that records these numbers, said that there were 210,000 visitors on June 22 and 23, so 105,000 a day on average. And that's a new high after the May Golden Week holiday period. In fact, we have averaged so far, in the whole month of May, May's obviously over, we're nearly at the end of June, we have averaged 2.2 million visitors, which works out to be 71,000 per day. So that is a great number. It is not the 108,000 per day we had in 2019, but it is way up there. And of course, it's much, much bigger than anything we've had in the past 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Still in Macau, hotel occupancy reached 78.9% in May, so nearly 80%. DSEC, the statistics department in Macau, said that there are now 130 hotels operational in Macau in the month of May. That's up 9 hotels year on year. The average stay is up 0.1 nights to 1.6 nights. I mean, this number, 1.5 nights average stay, I've been hearing for 15 years about trying to increase that number. It never increases. It's always 1.5. Sometimes it gets up to 1.6. Sometimes it gets up to 1.7. Then it goes back down to 1.5 again. I mean, that's the magic number. And if anything we can do to increase that would be great, but it seems to be a very, very tough number to move. 72% of these visitors are from the mainland as well. So pretty much the same historical number, to be frank. On this subject of foreign visitation, Dr. Wilfred Wong from Sands China Limited, the president of Sands China Limited, said that the concessionaires are doing their best and will do their best to increase the foreign visitation to Macau. He made these comments in the July issue of IAG cover story, which will be out tomorrow for me, today for you, assuming you're watching on Friday. We're aiming to release that at 10 a.m. Friday. So if you're watching this as part of Breakfast Briefing on Friday, get ready in an hour or two for the digital edition of our July issue to come out with the great cover story, a very deep dive story, my interview with Dr. Wilfred Wong. And in this interview, He mentioned that the MGTO's target of increasing foreign visitation to Macau from the historical 2.2% to 10% is something that can't be done overnight. And he did point to various efforts of all the concessionaires to try to encourage this. So, for example, Sands themselves did the Macau Showcase event at Marina Bay Sands, which I was at, and so was he. And there have been various international visits to Portugal and other places by the concessionaires in conjunction with the MGTO, the Macau Government Tourism Office. So they are working hard on that. Still in Macau, today, or late yesterday, early today my time, late Wednesday for you if you're watching on Friday, Wynn Macau Limited announced that Wynn Palace will host the Macau Snooker Masters in December. This is a no-brainer. I knew this would happen pretty soon, that somebody would grab a snooker event. Snooker is very, very popular in mainland China, and people who go to integrated resorts tend to like cue sports like snooker, pool, 8-ball, and so forth. Wynn Palace will be holding this event between the 25th and the 29th of December, so it's going to be a Christmas event. And the top players from around the world will be there. In particular, the biggest name of them all, Ronnie O'Sullivan, I should say, from England, and also Judd Trump, another very famous English snooker player, will be there. But so will Ding Junhui from China, Marco Fu from Hong Kong. There's going to be a lot of Chinese players there as well. It's going to be a great event. So Wynn Palace, if you're listening, free tickets for Andrew, huh? Okay, so let's move on. Junket representative says that there will be, or that there are 13 or 14 junkets now operating in Macau. The Macau Professional Association of Gaming Promoters president, Yu Yo-hung, said this number, 13 to 14 junkets now operational in Macau. And this is up from his statement that there were 8 operational in March this year. So he said this last week. So in 3 months, in 1 quarter, we've gone from 8 to 13 or 14. He commented that MGM and SJM are using more than the others. He didn't give any numbers on that, but he said it was weighted a little bit towards MGM and SJM. And also he commented that many of the former junket operators in Macau have now moved overseas and are using the old Macau format, as he described it, in overseas jurisdictions. So I guess Philippines, Cambodia, places like that. Certainly not Australia, as you know. We'll talk about Australia a bit later on in this On the Run. Lam Kai Kong, the director of the Macau Junket Promoters Association, a different junket organisation, a different junket professional body, said it was impossible for Macau to get rid of the gaming industry, and that there must be investment in gaming to develop the other industries that Macau wants to develop and the diversification that they want to do. Okay, enough for Macau. It's going to be a long On the Run this week. I'm afraid there's a lot of news this week. So let's go over to the Philippines. Maybank Securities came out and said that the Philippines GGR, that they're tipping that to grow at 15% per annum for a number of years, which is a long time. A large amount rather, excuse me. And they said that this would be driven by domestic demand and also a Korean-led VIP recovery. Well, I've been spending quite a bit of time in the Philippines, and I can report that there are a lot of Korean junkets and there are a lot of Korean VIPs in the Philippines. So Koreans love going to the Philippines, and they are spending money. The 5-month trend from January to May this year has shown that Korean VIP is now back to 70% of pre-COVID levels. Whereas Chinese VIP, quite dismal really, only 12% of pre-COVID levels. So a long way to go for Chinese to start traveling outside of China and to start to build a VIP industry in the Philippines, which of course mainland China will not be too happy about if it happens. So I think the Philippines concentrating on the Koreans, it makes a lot of sense. Korea is very close to the Philippines. It's only, I think, about an hour flight from Seoul to Clark or to Naya in Manila. And that's great business for them, and good luck to them. Let's go down to Australia now, and wow, there's a lot going on in Australia, and not much of it good from an industry perspective. We had this inquiry, this big inquiry into online gaming in Australia. It's been going on for many, many weeks now, and it reported and it called for sweeping industry changes. So the first thing it called for was something that would be a massive change for Australia, called for a national online gambling regulator. So the regulation of gambling in Australia has always been state-based: New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, and Tasmania, and the territories as well, Australian Capital Territory, Northern Territory. But this call is something that actually mirrors what the Tabcorp CEO, Adam Ritkenskild, called for back in March this year. IAG reported on that back in March. He called for a national regulator and described regulation in Australia as a patchwork quilt. Well, it certainly is. I mean, you've got 6 states, 2 territories, so 8 different jurisdictions in Australia. It makes it very difficult for a body like Tabcorp or other corporate bookmakers to provide their services when you've got 8 watchdogs watching you. But this inquiry, which was chaired by Peter Murphy, that's a female Peter, P-E-T-A, not P-E-T-E-R. She has called for, or the inquiry has called for, a ban on all inducements. So that would mean no comping, I guess, in any way, shape or form. No sort of promotions, I guess. I'm not quite sure what that would look like, but a complete and total ban on all inducements to gamble. And also a legislated duty of care. So a duty of care not just under common law, but under legislation. So again, what would that look like? Would gambling operators start being sued by people with gambling problems, problem gamblers? Don't know what that would look like. But anyway, there was a total of 31 recommendations aimed at reducing harm in various ways. So let's see if anything comes of that. I'm sure something will, and if so, what, and what legislation may pass as a result of that inquiry. Still in Australia, New South Wales poker machines, which is what Australians call slot machines, reduces the cash-in limit to just 500 Australian dollars. This is a pretty small amount of money. We're talking 334 US dollars. This is down from $5,000, so it's down to a tenth of what it was before. It will require a change to the technical standards. Also, New South Wales will be banning, or has banned, all external signage, or actually bans it, I think, from 1st of July, so in the next day or so. And they're also, I think from later this year, there is a ban on any donations, financial donations from clubs with machines to any political parties as well, trying to reduce the influence of the poker machine lobby on politics in New South Wales. How this would actually work in practice, I do not know. I mean, what's to stop you putting $500 into a machine and then immediately putting another $500 in a machine? Would there be a time limit between the two? Would you be required to play for a certain amount of time or a certain number of button pushes? Would you have to deplete the first 500 before you're allowed to put another 500 in? And if so, what if you were down to your last $2 and wanted to make a $3 bet? I don't know how that would work. So there's a lot of questions around this, and we might just ask some people some questions here at IAG to give you some answers. Still in New South Wales, the cashless gaming trial that was being held by Aristocrat at West's Newcastle Leagues Club in New South Wales was halted after a cyber attack in the last week of the trial. Trial's been going since October, so it was going to end anyway. 40 club members apparently were affected, and Aristocrat came out and said that none of their personal details were lost. I'm not quite exactly sure what happened, but there was some kind of cyber attack. An independent MP in New South Wales, Alex Greenwich, came out and said, well, the timing of this is very suspicious. Organised crime has a lot to lose if New South Wales goes cashless gaming, the argument being that organised crime uses cash gaming to launder money, and he was raising questions about that. So no doubt there will be some kind of inquiry into that. We'll hear about it in due course. Still in New South Wales, a lot going on in New South Wales, because that is the state, arguably, well, certainly the state with the most poker machines in Australia. The Clubs New South Wales, the peak industry body for clubs that have poker machines in them, have appointed a new CEO. Her name is Rebecca Riant. She is formerly from Tabcorp and formerly from the Star, the casino operator in New South Wales, one of two casino operators now in New South Wales. She will begin her new role on the 24th of July, and she replaces Josh Landis, who was actually fired in February. Some of you might have noticed we interviewed Josh in our Inside AGE, the special edition that we did for the AGE show last year in August in New South Wales. Josh made some comments where he publicly accused the then New South Wales Premier of bringing in mandatory cashless gaming because of his Catholic faith, and there was a big backlash against him over that, and he was fired by the board because of these comments. So good luck to Rebecca, who's taking over his job from the 24th of July. She's a former banking executive. She was at Westpac, she was at the Commonwealth Bank in Australia, and as I said before, she was at Tabcorp and also at the Star. And the chairman of Clubs New South Wales said that Rebecca is well acquainted with the complex, what did he say? Complex regulatory and operational environments in which they have to operate. So that's code for she's familiar with all the terrible mess that's going on in New South Wales at the moment and all the argument that's going on between the public, the media, the industry and the government. And there's a lot of dirty linen to be aired, and there's a lot of dirty laundry to be washed before we finally settle down that industry in New South Wales. All right, finally leaving Australia, let's head on up to Korea. And Mohegan's Inspire property, the opening is getting very, very close. Last week they ran a recruiting drive in Seoul, and they had this recruiting event, and they were looking to hire some 3,000 staff, or they are looking to hire some 3,000 staff for the new integrated resort, the Inspire Entertainment Resort up there in Incheon. Incheon, of course, being where the main airport for Seoul is, about a 1 hour drive south of Seoul. They attracted about 1,000 people, and those 1,000 people were invited to walk in and out of various company presentations, to play at simulated gaming tables, to make use of a photo booth, and basically to have some fun. And the Mohegan Global Director of HR and Development, Kelly Sullivan, she said that creating a good work environment is not just about pay and benefits, it's about having fun. And they're looking for people who like to have fun and to engage, and they would like to hire them for Mohegan. So we wish Mohegan well in their opening, and of course, at some point I will be heading up there to check out the property when it opens. Now to a jurisdiction we don't report on too often, Sri Lanka. So the Sri Lanka has created a gambling regulatory authority. The Cabinet of Ministers in Sri Lanka has approved this after the President of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, proposed this, and there will now be a bill introduced to the legislative authority in Sri Lanka, which will regulate all gaming activities. So that's yet to be drafted, that bill. But the three purposes of that bill is to ensure the right amount of taxes are collected, to prevent illegal activity, and to minimise harm. So there are already 5 casinos operational in Sri Lanka. 3 are operated by Demika Pereira, and 2 are operated by Ravi Wicharatne. And both Mr. Pereira and Mr. Wicharatne are on the Power 50 list each year. If you go look at the Power 50 list, they're usually in the last 10 people or so, or sometimes on the ones to watch, they're borderline around the 50 mark or in the 40, something like that. Now, another quite controversial story, the detained casino kingpin Shi Zhejiang. He is fighting extradition to China. Mr. Shi is quite the character. Information was sent to IAG from his representatives, and we crafted a story around that. Now, this is a complicated story. Let me try and give it to you in a nutshell. He says that he should not be extradited to China. He says, I am not a Chinese citizen. Of course, he was born a Chinese citizen. He was actually born in Shandong, I believe. And he was born a Chinese citizen, but he got Cambodian citizenship some years ago. And he now says, well, I'm a foreign national alleged to have committed crimes outside of China. what's that got to do with China? And he has renounced his Chinese citizenship. He no longer, well, he says he no longer holds a Chinese passport. He was convicted of what was described as illegal lottery offences in the Philippines. He was convicted by a Shandong provincial court in 2014 and has since left China and now operates in Myanmar. He operates the Yatai tourism zone complex in Shui Koko. So Shui Koko is just a few, I think about 20 kilometres north of Myawaddy, which is the town on the Myanmar side of the border opposite Mae Sot in Thailand. So it's on the Thailand-Myanmar border. I've actually been there, and it is, let's be honest, the Wild West when it comes to Asian gambling. So there's stuff going on there, and there have been many accusations by many other media companies of all sorts of unsavory activity occurring in Shui Koko. If you really want to know about it, just Google Shui Koko, SHWE, second word KOKKO. All right, well, that's it for the news of the week, but I'd like also to talk about what's upcoming, because it's very, very busy time for the industry. Events and upcoming. So first of all, as I mentioned before, our July issue is coming out tomorrow, or if you're watching this on Friday, today at 10 a.m. Please read it. It's a great, great issue. We ran a video on Breakfast Briefing on Wednesday, I think it was, promoting that and discussing the 10 stories in that issue. And it starts with the cover story from Dr. Wilfred Wong, a 4,000 word interview, deep dive. We've got an interview from Hoffman Ma there of Success Universe. We've got a couple of great columns, one about the Singapore regulatory environment, one about internal and external marketing from an Australian executive, Charlie Mai. And we've got a story about Air Macau's, the end of Air Macau's 28-year monopoly, all sorts of stuff. There's a bunch of really good stories there. And even the 10 years ago story is fascinating. It's all about Crown in Sydney. And it's fascinating to compare what we wrote 10 years ago to what is happening today. So please do take a look at the July issue. And of course, that will be coming out digitally 10 a.m. Friday. And if you're lucky enough to get a print copy, please enjoy that too. We had Mad 17 at Ahi Restaurant at MGM Cotai on this Tuesday just past, and I think we ran a story in today's IAG today being Thursday, Friday, maybe yesterday for you, talking about that, and thank you to everybody who attended that. So that was a great event. I should also mention, of course, we've now got G2E. The next big thing on the agenda is G2E Asia. So G2E Asia, July 11, 12 and 13. I'll be staying in Macau through till then. IAGA, the International Association of Gaming Advisors, I hope I got that exactly right. They're running a cocktail reception at G2E Asia on the Tuesday evening, July 11. That will be at Wynn Macau, on Macau side at Il Teatro, now closed Il Teatro. And that's being sponsored by Wynn Macau and MDME Gaming Lawyers, who MDME do a lot of work with IAG. So please attend that if you can. But even bigger, we're having a very, very big, large party on Wednesday, July 12, the industry party. So this is a new event by IAG. IAG is the organizer, but it's really being held by a raft of suppliers and sponsors. So we have a lot of really big sponsors. I think we're up to 7 or 8 sponsors now. Light and Wonder, Aristocrat, APE, Angel, who else? IGT, WDTS. Please forgive me if I've skipped one right. I haven't got a list of them right now, but you'll be getting a lot of marketing for that. Look for the orange. It's very, very orange. All the branding for that is orange. And please get yourself an invitation to that. It's strictly by invitation only. You need an invitation from either IAG or from one of the sponsors. They have a certain number of invitations allocated to them, so that is quite strict, the attendance for that. And it will be a big party. It will be a lot bigger than a MAD. There'll be more to it. So that's it from me. Quite a long on the run. I'm sorry about the very long on the run, but there was so much to get through. As I say, I'm in Macau right through to G2E, so that takes me to the end of the second week in July. Third week in July, I'll probably hit the road again. A lot of travel to do, a lot of places to go. So have a great weekend. have a rest, and we'll get into it all over again next week on Monday. So have a great weekend, enjoy reading IAG, get the July issue, and bye for now. See ya.
Run.